Welcome back to the Innovative Experience Podcast, episode 22, and we are back for another episode. The Innovative Experience Podcast is the untold stories of entrepreneurs, community leaders, and influencers. It is a self-improvement podcast that helps you get direction, control, and next steps. Now listen, for all of our listeners that are listening and tuning in, you know how we start every podcast. It's another day, another grind. What will you do with your time? Because it either make you or you make it. Ah, man. We're back, man, for another episode, man. I just get so excited, man, every time we're able to come in to our listeners. But before we do anything, you know how we start our podcast off. I need you to subscribe and send this to your cousin, your grandma, your uncle, anyone for this episode, because today we have some great gems that we are going to drop for the Innovation family. Man, I'm so excited to be back for another week, another day, another grind. So, Mr. Mason, how you been and what's been up with you, man?
Man, it's been good. I just been waiting to get back in front of this camera, in front of this mic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To share some things to help change some lives, man, to make a difference. That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir, man. I got to hear it one time. I know last time this episode you didn't do it, but I just got to hear that this is motivational. This is the day change. I need to hear it, man. I need to hear it, man. Like, go ahead and crank us up one time, Mr. Mason. Crank us up, man.
You know what time it is. Let's bring it from the top.
Yes, sir.
This is the day, Motivational Monday.
I love it, man. Listen, man. See, I love it. You know, it just does something to me when I'm able to hear those words. And man, I'm so excited, man. We've got something great for you today. And I just really want to slow things down, because for this episode, I kind of wanted to go back and to do something like what we've always done, of how we always start off with a story. So today I really want to talk about jealousy, family. Jealousy, right? The process of it, and 3 signs why they may be jealous of you. We're going to break it down. I want to start off with a story that it really goes right into our conversation for today. So the story I want to talk about is, I want to talk about my wife, all right? We've been married going on, 5 years now. And she had a best friend, right? And her best friend, they met when they were in middle school. So over the years, so you're looking at almost 15, 20 years of friendship. Yes. So everything you can think about together, man, like experience graduating high school together, experience going to that next step together for college. Just they've experienced so many different memories, so many different milestones, right? Highly educated, both social workers. But one of the things that I really want to talk about, that was a huge problem, and this is what we're going to break down. See, one thing you got to understand is when you make a decision to follow and go wherever you want, like sometimes during the process, you have to let people go. But the question that we want to ask ourselves, how can you let someone go if you don't even notice if they are jealous of you? So I really want to break down some signs today of almost the same identical signs that relates to the story as we're going to get into it. So the first sign, listen, right? So like I said, they had a long friendship, great memories, great milestones, but there was a problem. There was a lack of support. Let me break that down. When events happening in her life, she wasn't there, right? First kid was born, she wasn't there. When she graduated from college, she wasn't there, right? Anything that was celebrated, right, she wasn't there. See, one of the things that you got to realize is it's very important that not only you would truly learn who people are, not but what they say, but what they do, right? At the end of the day, it's very important that you put yourself in an environment that do or speak language. So it goes back to what I just said. So the lack of support. So the number one, the first sign that someone may be jealous of you is lack of support. Yes. A person can do all of the talking in the world, but at the end of the day, do they truly show up for you in a time of celebration? It's very important that you surround yourself with people that celebrate you and not tolerate you.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
People that celebrate you and not tolerate you. There is a difference in between fans and followers. Fans, they show up during the accolades, right? But those followers, those people that are really in your life, show up during the process. They show up for you in support. So number one, first sign, lack of support. So Mr. Mason, what's your take on that? Do you feel like the lack of support is a sign of a person that is jealous of you? Or do you have any experiences that can relate to that? What do you feel with that?
I totally agree. I feel that, lack of support is a big, nugget to notice, because anytime you with somebody or for someone, you want to celebrate them,
right?
And show your love and support. It's just like when you tell someone you love them. I mean, it sounds good, but love is an action word.
Yes, sir.
You got to put in some work behind that,
right?
So people can really feel like, oh, not only did they say it, but they showed it too. So I really feel like, some people be inferior. They have an inferior complex to them when it comes to other people, because they won't support them. They just try to diminish their accomplishments, or they won't show up, knowing, we did all this together, and then all of a sudden now you want to stop. And it's something that goes back to that person. It's something in them that's inferior of you that you sometimes don't even have an idea, like, how did we get to this point?
Right.
But it's a low self-esteem problem that they're dealing with, and they feel like to them, your accomplishment, they are threatened by your accomplishment, and they feel like I can't, accomplish that. And them, that's when the low self-esteem come in, but they're not even knowing that they're being, jealous or envy of you.
Man, let me just say this. You hit on something. So listen, I know I'm about to say something, and I know it's about to go over someone's head what I'm about to say. But this is a threat that you have to be mindful of. See, one of the threats and some of the most accurate jealous people are the people that have known you for your whole life.
Yes.
What we call it? Family. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Family. Let me tell you something. There's a difference in between a person that has a growth mindset and a person that has a fixed mindset. Like when you come to a place in your life where you start to move up, you start to celebrate yourself, you start to really know what you want to do, and like you literally start seeing your life elevate. Immediately, some of the threats that you have to look for, I'm not saying for everyone, is family. Because at the end of the day, like Mr. Mason said, some are filled with low self-esteem. Some have to overcome insecurity. But at the end of the day, you have to be mindful of the threat of the ones that feel like they've known you your whole life. Well, I know you your whole life. I remember when you was a boy over 20 years. At the end of the day, I understand that. But there comes to a place in my life when I chase after what I love that I've got to let go of what's familiar. Walking into unfamiliar ground, being the first person, right, to do something in your family, and we're pursuing right now. So, which goes back, like support is everything. It is an action word. It is not anything to just do with saying, but is a absolutely doing. The second thing that I want to talk about that relates to a sign of why someone may be jealous of you, how they respond to you.
Yes, that's a big one.
How they respond. How does a person respond when you share your vision? How does a person respond when you share your dream? How does a person respond when you say, you know what, I've got to do something different? I may have to leave my hometown because it's not working, because I came from a small town that nothing is working right now, but I need to transition myself, move away from what's familiar, and go into this unfamiliar ground that I've never went before. So you really have to pay attention how people respond with their body language, with the words they say, because at the end of the day, there is power in the tongue.
Yes.
And you have to look at how people talk non-verbally and verbally. We got to understand something, that we communicate 70% non-verbally and 30% verbally. So 70% non-verbally, 30% verbally. So what I'm saying is you have to be alert of how people respond when you share information.
Yes.
Which goes back to family. If a person is not there to support you, or they don't respond and celebrate you, say, hey man, keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you, and they're open and vulnerable with you, that is a sign. That is a big sign. So how do you feel your take on people and how they respond? Because it's very, You got to be very intentional about the environments that you place yourself in. But I know that you also have to be aware of how people respond to you when you share different things you want in your life. What's your take on that?
Well, for me, I mean, I had to leave my hometown because, excuse me, it wasn't anything happening. I didn't have support. I mean, you know, everything from that time to now, you see me just grinding it out, you know, just trying to make it happen, you know, with the help of the Lord, you know. But I know what it feels like to have to leave a place where you have no support. And I know how lonely that can feel at times. But for as a person who you don't feel support from, I mean, you know, you just have to get to that place. Like you said, you got to make sure you recognize the threat. And you can't stay around that place. I mean, especially when you're being called to something greater. And sometimes when we're called to something greater, that threatens people, whether it's family, friends. But in your mind, you see it as a way, okay, I can do better for the people that's being threatened. So I'm like, why become a threat to someone? You become a threat, not even knowing you becoming a threat, but you doing what you're doing just so you can better their lives. And they have no idea. They threaten the person. They're going to change their life. They could possibly be there for them in the time of trouble. So I'm like, I mean, we have these little small hang-ups, these small insecurities against people that we should be celebrating, not tolerating, not haterating.
Yeah.
You know, we should be celebrating them because we for one, we're connected. So, you know, what's on you can hop off on me. Like me being here today. Yeah. What was on you hopped off on me. Now look, we here co-starring together. So I'm like, that's why it's important to celebrate people and not hate on people. It's important to celebrate people and not tolerate people because you never know what they may have in store for you, what they may be doing behind the scenes to elevate you because of what you're doing. So it's very important that we don't be shallow-minded like that to allow, you know, jealousy and envy to creep in and cause us to mess up a relationship because in the ultimate end, it won't be a relationship because jealousy don't have no upside. Once you get the spiraling, you going straight Trans-Dillenberg, you know, boom, you're going down. So you can't allow that to happen in your life. You can't allow that to happen. You got to savor that relationship. And how you do that? Celebrate people because your time is coming. What goes around comes around. You can't forget that. You hating on somebody now, but when your time be celebrating, the person you want to stand up with you going to hate on you. You can't plant oranges and expect to get apples.
Uh-oh.
If you plant oranges, you're going to reap it. So what you're putting out, you're going to reap it. So that's very important. You got to be careful what you're putting out because it's coming back to you, and it's going to come back to you 7 times fold.
Hey, that's in it. Hey, I got to go here. I got to go to the book. The book says that jealousy is like cancer in bones. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. I mean, go read your Bible. It's in there.
It's in there.
Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. And me and my wife was doing Bible study the other day. We was in Proverbs. And we was talking about the importance of surrounding yourself with wisdom versus the fool. And then I saw this word, man, this thing almost hit me like a ton of bricks. Feeble-minded.
Feeble. Yeah.
A feeble-minded person, right? A jealous person, a person that judges you, that assumes and puts you in this category without even getting to know you or having a conversation with you. But because of what they saw, the picture looked pretty. But at the end of the day, that's why it's so important. I got to go back to the environment. I know we're talking about jealousy. You've got to plant yourself in the right environment.
Got to.
You got to plant yourself in the right soil. You know, there's a cliche and an analogy that a lot of people use, and I know you've heard this before, that at the end of the day, if a flower, and you talked about it with the oak tree, if a flower never blooms in the right soil, you don't change the flower, you change the soil that it's in so that it can receive the right nutrients. Yes. See, a lot of you all right now, maybe some of the reasons that and some of the signs we're going to get to the last sign that you're not in the right environment right now.
Yes.
You're surrounded with fools and feeble-minded people who don't want to have anything to do with you. Every time you take one step, someone is saying something about it. Well, how about you make a decision to put yourself around people that we understand the version of team.
Yes.
Team. Together, everyone achieves more.
Yes.
Together, everyone achieves more. We talked about it in the past podcast before, understanding the power of we. At the end of the day, I need you to understand something, that jealousy is a part of the process.
Yes.
But God is a God of free will, and he's going to give you the decision to know what type of company that you want to surround yourself with. So it just really made me understand that this is why you really got to surround yourself with wisdom, man.
Yes, you got
wisdom. Stay away from the feeble-minded person, right? Stay away from the fool's language, the way they operate, the negativity and those different things, and understand that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I want to go a little bit. I feel that you want to tag in on that before we go to our last point, man.
Yes, wisdom is key. I mean, you can learn a lot by having wisdom. I mean, how to rightly divide things, and that's what it all boils down to. People have a lack of wisdom. They just, for every reaction, there's a reaction. They just react,
right,
instead of responding. It's a difference. You can't just react. You got to be able to take a calculated thought and respond. So that way you can know you covering all your bases. But we live in a day of time, people just like, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt your back. Or you do this to me, I'm going to do this to your back. They just reacting and not responding. But you can say a lot by responding to a person's action towards you than reacting. And a lot of fires can be put out before they even get started by if you responding instead of reacting. And that's when wisdom, it comes in and it show you a better way. And a lot of times in this climate, people they just see one way. But you have to be a person, like I said in prior podcasts, you got to be a student. You got to study yourself. You got to study, your elements. Okay, if I get to this point, I need to draw back because I don't want to react. I want to respond. And that takes time. And that deals with your character as well, and who you are. So, I mean, it's just like one thing after another. But wisdom, above all, it's better than understanding. It's good to understand a thing, but do I have the wisdom to play out the very thing that I'm understanding? So that's great.
Man, I want to ask you a question. I just feel like I want to play devil's advocate a little bit. So let's say that I am a person who has been in this environment for so many years. Let's say I'm home, right, in my hometown. I have intentions to want to change. I have intentions to want to put something in place, but I feel like that something is holding me back because I don't want to leave these people that I've been connected with for so long because I feel comfortable, right? And for a person, like going back to the story, like my wife's friend, like very successful, has all the milestones, but lacks showing up for a person. And it came to a point that other people were telling her, hey, she want what you got. She want everything what you got. That's why she would never show up, do anything. But so a person, which goes back to my question, breaking out a little bit more. So for a person that's had a long friendship with a person since they grew up with, and they're discovering now that this person is really not for me, and they don't have the support like I thought they had, how can a person take steps to leave behind for someone that's been in position for so long? So that's my question, which relates to what I just said. I wanted to break it down in a way that how can a person do that? Like if you've been a friend with someone for 25 years and they really have not shown up for you, what do you do to walk away? How do you do that? How do you take the steps to do that? Walk me through that, because it can be, man.
What you first have to do, I know people will say, just keep walking, just walk away. But it's danger in that, because you're walking away. Yes, you could just keep on walking and walk away, but you're walking away unhealed. So what you have to do, you got to stop, reverse back, go back, and try to get closure. Now, at this point, when you go back and get closure and they refuse, then you can walk away. And then now you can, okay, God, heal me from this point forward. But you can bring closure and bring healing by going back, because that person's not going to come to you because they're jealous of you.
Nope.
So first step, you have to go back and you have to bring closure. figure out what did we go wrong. I mean, you got to ask those tough questions. I mean, are you jealous of me? Or why you feel this way? What have I done to make you feel this way? And at that point, you got a coaching session. Hey, you could do the same thing I'm doing. You just got to do X, Y, Z. Because somewhere down the road, they felt insecure within themselves that I can't compete. I can't do this. And from the jump street, it shouldn't have been a competition. It should be like, okay, she inspired me, so I'm going to go after it because this is what I want to do. But you first have to go back and get closure. If you can't get closure that way, by going back, revisiting the situation, asking those tough questions, then at that point you have to ask God to heal you, and you got to move forward because there's no savage in that because they have made themselves, not available. And you can't force someone to be available for you when you need them to be available for you. So at that point, that next step, you just have to keep moving forward and get the help you need. Get around someone who can mentor you through that point, who have been through that kind of rejection or hurt because of jealousy and envy. And then steps, keep on moving forward from that point.
That's good.
But you have to do that first.
That's good, man. I always tell anyone that people will self-select themselves out of your life, especially when you move out of faith, like you're just talking about. They'll eventually start to drift away.
Yes.
And you don't even have to say anything, right?
Yet.
But which goes back to the last point. So we talked about it. So 3 signs that they may be jealous of you, right? Number 1, lack of support, right? Yes. Number 2, how they respond to you. And then now number 3, which I want to hit on a little bit, trust your intuition, discernment. So a lot of people struggle with, and I understand that is a gift of the Spirit, discernment, the gift of discernment. Yes. But you have to trust your intuition of a person, because I understand, like, we understand in choices, man.
Yes.
One choice, man, you could lose 3 years from one bad choice.
You can.
And some people, they struggle with being able to read the vibe off a person just in general. So what my last thing is, for a person that has no recollection and understands how to trust your intuition, or how to even discern the people that are around you to see if they really have you at best heart, what do you feel like is the first step for a person that's in that situation?
Well, I have been in that situation before. I mean, man. Coming up, I mean, right off my discernment wasn't all that like it is now. Mm-hmm. So what I did, I just spent time, because you could just be around a person and they'll go to raveling. It'll tell you everything you need to know. And then eventually, when they start seeing you disappear, hopefully they're smart enough to know why, because of what they have been displaying, especially when it's against what you stand for and what you believe. So I would say, if you can't tell right away, just spend some time. Get in the same environment, get in the same setting of that person around, and see how they react to other people and how they respond to other people's successes and different things like that, to see can they handle the success of others and not just try to put themselves on the forefront all the time. So those are ways that you can quietly know something about a person without even trying to discern it yourself. It'll unfold before you, because if you want to know more about a person, spend time with them.
Most definitely. Man, listen, I mean, we really could almost go like almost 5 different directions with this conversation. But for me, the recollection and understanding our conversation is really, you need to really reevaluate the power of your circle. Yes. Totally. You've got to really understand something. Me and my wife, we do this frequently. We go through our phone sometimes, like every year, like when it gets to the end of the year, like from January, like probably up to close, like 11, like October, November, whatever that may be. We go through our phone, especially me, and I look at my phone and I say, man, who's really been there for me this year? How many times have anybody checked in on me, right? Or asked me, hey, man, is there anything I could do for you, or let's get up? And the only reason I say that is because you only can push people so much, man. You'll wear yourself out giving and giving and giving and giving for people that have no interest in you, which all of the signs are lining up that we just talked about, that a sign they may be jealous of you. So for a person that's listening to this podcast today, it may be time to reassess your circle, to really see who has you at best interest at heart, to really see who cares about you, to really see who supports you, to really see who celebrates you, to really see who wants the best for you. Because at the end of the day, and we said it so many times, that you've got to surround yourself with elevators, man. Check your circle. Go through your phone right now. What month we in right now? What, September? So it's September. I want you to go through your phone right now from January to September. I want you to scroll through your phone, and I want you to look and see how many people have checked in on you. How many people have really checked in on you to see how you've been doing, right? To show up for you when you say, I got something in place, I'm doing this, I want to invite you to it. Because at the end of the day, and I got to say this on camera right here, I tell this to my wife all the time. You've got to focus on patterns over potential. The patterns will tell you everything. Yes. Looking at the consistent patterns of how a person has been for month after month will always overtake the potential. Well, they got the potential that they can't change. They can change. Don't get me wrong. God can touch anyone's heart and heal anybody. He can change anyone. But you better focus on patterns versus the potential of a person changing or doing something different. Because the patterns of a person is going to always lead to who a person is. So again, go through your phone and really ask yourself, who's been here for me this year? Who's pushing me? We in the third quarter of the year, going almost to the fourth quarter of the year, I think. Fourth quarter of the year. Who has really showed up for me? Who has pushed me? Who has challenged me to do something that I've never done before? Because at the end of the day, there may be a sign that they may be jealous of you if you go back and look at our steps that we're talking about. So you got to do that, and I do that every year, man. I look and see the people that I've met this year. I look and see who checks in on me, who's leveling me up, who's pushing me up, who's elevating me. And if you're not doing that and you don't show up, that is a sign. And now I start to trust my intuition. And I really to start to see if you have me at best heart for right now in the season of your life. So you got to ask yourself this. I wanted to lead this. As we're wrapping up, closing thoughts, man. What you got, Mr. Mason?
Well, I wanted to say, I like what you said lastly. I want to leave with this. You got to pay attention to the patterns over potential, because you can have all the potential in the world, but if your patterns keep dictating something different, your potential is nothing. Yeah. And it got to line up at some point. So I encourage you, watch patterns, not just be so excited about the potential. Yes, potential is great, and that person has potential to do better. But if that pattern that they keep presenting is not lining up with the potential that they have to do things, then stick with the patterns.
Absolutely, man. And you can reflect that to every area of your life.
You can.
You want a healthy relationship? Look at the patterns. Everything, your spiritual, your financial, it don't matter what it is. You have to focus on the patterns over potential. It's another podcast.
Yes.
Of the Innovative Experience Podcast. Man, listen. I really enjoyed this conversation. Yes, it really has re-energized me, understanding where I am at this point of my life. And listen, if you enjoyed this podcast today, I need you to send this to someone that you care about, someone that you believe in. And we are grateful for you tuning in today.
Yes,
so like we always in our podcast, I'll see you at the top because the bottom is too crowded. It's another podcast. Innovative Experience.